So today we're going to talk about something that I think will come up a lot in the future videos that I'm recording, which is the usage of plugins in Vim. Vim is pretty great on its own, and if you know how to use it really well, it can be super powerful, but there's definitely a huge ecosystem of Vim plugins that would be great to take advantage of. And so today we're going to walk through installing two different plugin managers for Vim. The first one is Pathogen, and the second one is Vundle. I use Vundle personally, but I'm going to show you both, and then you can make up your mind on which one you want to use later. So I'm just going to show you right now. I have a very minimal Vim installation. I've removed all of my plugins and most of my config. If we open up VimRC, I basically have three lines. These ones are just kind of syntax and indentation and stuff like that. And the second one is just to show the status bar at the bottom. I think status line is the technical term, but you can see it's very, very minimal. And so let's install Pathogen first. So Pathogen is written by Tim Pope, who is a very active, probably one of the most, if not the most prolific Vim plugin author. He has a lot of plugins that cover a lot of stuff, Pathogen being kind of the root of all of those plugins, because a lot of his plugins are obviously installed with Pathogen. So let's do the installation process here. You can see there's kind of a one-liner that installs the whole thing. So it makes the appropriate folders, and then it just downloads using curl from this URL. So if you're not comfortable with downloading, from this, it seems as though it's his website, but if you're not comfortable with that, you can also install manually. And the way you can do that, if we come up here, you can see this is autoload folder, and basically all you need to do is download this file into your .vim/autoload/pathogen.vim. For now, we know that, well, I know, I've run the script before, or I know that it works, so I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to paste it in. You can see it seems to have worked, and so there's actually one more install step. You just need to add this line here, which is actual pathogen. It's called infect, which is kind of funny. It's a nice function name. Below, you can see they have this recommendation. If you don't have a Vim config, just add these three lines. And you can see that actually these last two are the same ones that I have in my VimRC. And so now I'm going to open up VimRC, and I'm just going to add here. They actually recommend that you put it towards the top, above all your other config, but because I have so little config, I think it's probably fine here. So I'm going to write this. Actually, I'm going to close it. And now Pathogen is installed. So we need to get a plugin of some sort. I like Vim Airline a lot. It's basically a really cool replacement or maybe improvement for your status bar in Vim. And it also has the advantage of being super obvious. Once it's been installed, we will definitely know. So I'm going to scroll through. There's a lot of kind of configuration stuff and integration with different plugins. And by the way, if you are looking for some great plugins to start with, there's some really good ones here. Control P is great. Syntactic is great. Vim Git Gutter is one I use all the time as well. Anyway, if we keep going down, we can see the installation process here. And the first section is Pathogen. And so it's just a one-line thing. If you don't have Git installed, probably going to want to go to the Git website and download that. If you're using Pathogen, a lot of it is going to be done with Git. So in a future video, I'm actually going to talk about how to install Git, probably primarily on Mac, but on other platforms, it should be pretty easy to figure out how to install it, especially with GitHub and things like that. The instructions are definitely out there. So just going to paste this in. It's going to clone down Vim Airline into the Vim/bundle folder. I'm going to run it. It's going to take just a second. And then if we open up Vim, we should be able to see down at the bottom here that the status bar is a little bit different. And so now if we go into insert mode, we can see the colors have changed. We go into visual mode. It's definitely installed, and it was fairly easy. So that is Vim Pathogen. And so basically what you need to know is that unlike some other plugin managers, you're going to be doing a lot of Pathogen installed by hand. So what that means is, every time you want to install a plugin, you're going to have to clone it into the Vim Bundle folder yourself. And so some of the, I guess, advantages of that, if you really want to kind of hand tune it yourself, you can. But the main disadvantage, at least for me, and why I don't use Pathogen, is it's pretty unclear which plugins you have installed. And what I mean by that is if I have Vim Airline installed, in a lot of ways, the only way that I would know that I have Vim Airline installed is if I had any kind of configuration in my Vim RC, which at this time with my really small Vim RC, I don't. But in my personal Vim RC, I have a lot of airline config. And so basically all I would know if the plugin wasn't installed, I'd probably just get a huge amount of errors, which is not the best way to keep track of your plugins. So I'm going to actually nuke my entire Vim folder, and then I'm going to remove, obviously, Pathogen error, which makes sense. But I'm going to remove Pathogen, and then I'm going to go to Vundle. So like I said, I use Vundle. I like it a lot, mostly because it has a very similar syntax to the Ruby bundler, if you've used that. So basically all of the plugins, I'm going to scroll down here to just kind of look at this screenshot. It has a really simple syntax, plugin, and then the name of the plugin. Usually it corresponds to the GitHub username and the repository name. But you can also pass in other things like Git URLs or vimscript.com, I believe, maybe .org URLs. But let's actually get started installing it. So it has actually in Vundle, in the README, a pretty good section about how to install Git, which is really nice. But let's assume in this situation that we do have it installed. So we're just going to come back here. We're going to copy this. You can see it cloned it down here. It was pretty quick. And then come back. And there's a pretty big example thing. So it's kind of hard to know what stuff is actually important here. I'm going to copy this first part. I'm going to open vimrc back up. Turn paste on, paste mode, so I can paste things in easily. And so basically some of this stuff here is just kind of config things. You don't really need to worry about. And actually, I believe that these are conflicting, though I might be wrong. This one and this one. So I'm just going to go with the Vundle one for now. There's some setup here, and then call Vundle begin. And then you can see after that, there's a lot of plugins. The only one we need to worry about right now is Vundle itself, which is funny. It is required that it is there. And then after that, oh, I see now. File type off here, and then file type comes back on here. Interesting. I learned something new today. And come here. I'm going to exit out. Anyway, getting distracted. So we call Vundle end. And so everything in between this line and this line is going to be managed by Vundle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reload this file. I'm going to do that with source and then the %, which is the expansion thing for the current file. So when I press tab, it expands out. I'm going to do that. And now I should have access to a bunch of commands under Bundle. Bundle clean, can I go through them here? Docs, install, list, search, update. So a whole bunch of them. For now, I'm just going to go with install. And you can see that was really fast. It's just installing Vundle itself. And so now I'm actually going to exit out of that, and I'm going to add one more plugin, which is Airline again. And you can see it has a couple other things here. We're not going to talk about NeoBundle or VAM. I've actually never used VAM, but Vundle, like I said, it's a really easy syntax. And actually, I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to delete that line. So I saved the file, and once again, I'm going to source it. I'm going to run bundle install. And the reason we do source, just kind of explain that, is that when we add a new plugin to the vimrc and save it, it actually doesn't get loaded into Vim's internal sense of what plugin list we have. And so I'm going to do bundle install again after we source the file. And you can see it's actually working here and it's installed. And so now I'm going to quit here. I'm going to quit. Oh, I actually didn't even need to quit. It already reloaded, which was really nice. You can see, so it's already loaded up. It's the same thing as it was in Pathogen. Looks like it's actually giving me an error here, which is kind of funny. Oh, still unhappy. That's all right. But as you can see, so in terms of actual Vundle config part of your VimRC, it's a little bit bigger than Pathogen. We have this part and this part, but then your actual listing of plugins is here. It's fairly legible. So what I'm going to do here, I believe I have my, so this is my old VimRC, and it's going to be really not highlighted or anything because it is not configured right. But anyway, these are, I have a ton of plugins here, and the advantage is that, these are all plugins. And what I can do is I can just comment, one out, load, save, reload the file and do that. And unlike Pathogen, I have a really good sense of what plugins I'm running at that time. And this is especially useful if you're tracking your dot files in Git, because then you can get a sense over time, what plugins you're using consistently, or even if you take one out and then update it in Git, you can go back and, what was that plugin I was using? You can go back and find it, no problem. As opposed to Pathogen, you don't really have a sense of what's going on in your bundle folder. So that's pretty much it. I think recommend Vundle for most people, unless you have a reason to be using Pathogen. It's pretty hard to recommend it over something that is a lot more explicit. And I don't want to say that Vundle necessarily holds your hand, but it does kind of abstract a lot of the principles of plugin management, kind of in the same way that Bundler does for Ruby. You shouldn't really have to deal with the nitty gritty unless you really want to. And if you want to, then Pathogen is definitely the way to go. But for me and for a lot of other people, Pathogen definitely gets my thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, or you can send me an email or on Twitter. I love talking about this stuff, and I am definitely a Vim plugin junkie. So thanks.